So let's start with Trey Turner. Give us his Bonkers stat that you find most appealing in 2023.
Well, first stat, Roflo, is when you use the word bonkers in a headline, it leads the site 100% of the time, of course. And speaking
It's all
of
about
100%,
the clicks.
speaking of 100%, that's Trey Turner's stolen base success rate. He is 29 for 29. If he can just go this final week without being caught stealing, he will set a new record for most steals without being caught all year. The previous record was held by another Philly, Chase Utley, 23 for 23 in 2009. Now, of course, this is, we're in a very different environment this year when it comes to stolen bases, the bigger bags and the pickoff limits. But good to see Trey Turner taking advantage of them the way he has. And this is Roflo with a 317 on base percentage this year, which is not very Trey Turner-like. He's a 349 on base for his career. So just imagine what he would have done, with a more successful offensive season, frankly. But he's definitely taken advantage when he's had the opportunities.
Yeah, and he has turned his season around at the plate, and the Philadelphia Phillies love that. Meantime, Mookie Betts, Anthony, he's having an MVP-type season. But what stat is most bonkers-like, if that's even a term, in 2023?
Yeah, I wanted a way. I feel like Mookie Betts' season needs proper context because we have this healthy debate between him and Ronald Acuna Jr. for the MVP. And with Ronald Acuna Jr., it's very simple. I mean, he's going to be the first 40-70 guy in history, 40 homers and 70 stolen bases. And that is bonkers in itself, but that's easy to wrap your head around. Mookie Betts is a little different. So let's go with this route. He's got a 167 OPS plus this season. That means he's been 67% better than league average offensively. He's doing it while playing more than 30% of his time, his innings, at second base and more than 30% in the outfield. He also had some time at shortstop, of course. But to find a season like this where a guy played at least 30% of his innings at second base and 30% of his innings in the outfield and provided this kind of offensive impact, it hasn't been done in the modern era at this high of an OPS plus. The highest ever, Roflo, the only guy higher than Mookie Betts in this OPS plus category with those positional parameters was the great Hardy Richardson of the 1886 Detroit Wolverines. And there you see that dapper fellow right there. So now Hardy went on to run a hotel in Utica, New York. So there's a potential post-career path for Mr. Betts. But yeah, I mean, that's just a way to, you could vote for either of those guys for MVP and you won't get an argument from me. But I do think because it's meant so much to that Dodgers team for Mookie to move around the way he has and play good middle infield defense, by the way, which is insane because he was the best defensive right fielder in the game. So yeah, he's been really valuable to them.
Royce Lewis has played both infield and outfield, and he's had a bumpy professional career, but he's overcome it, and he is doing some great things for the Minnesota Twins. He's got 5 career Grand Slams, and Anthony, 4 of them have come this year. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer that he's hurt right now with the hamstring. They hope to have him back for Game 1 of the Wild Card Series. In a way, though, it's almost good for his bonkers stat that he's not playing, right now because he's not adding to his at-bats and games because this is pretty crazy. He's the fastest ever to 5 career Grand Slams. He had 1 last year and 4 this year. And, we've had 22 times in history that a guy has 4 Grand Slams in a season or more. This guy's done it in just 217 at-bats. No one had ever done it in fewer than 450 at-bats. So it's a product of opportunity in some measure because Royce Lewis this year, 5% of his plate appearances come with the bases loaded, which is a pretty insane stat right there. And, just like with Turner, like we said, taking advantage of it. He is definitely taking advantage of it with the 4 Grand Slams. It's pretty fun to watch.
Well, he is his perseverance is definitely worthy of respect and admiration, that's for sure. Anthony, the San Diego Padres lost another 1-run game. The good news is, I guess it didn't happen in extra innings, right?
Right. I mean, when we unpack this Padres season, the Mets you can easily explain, right? The Cardinals you can easily explain. These are, some of the disastrous teams of 2023. The Padres are in that category, but not as easily explainable. They've got a plus 90 run differential. They're chasing a bunch of teams with negative run differentials. They had some strong offensive seasons, some great pitching seasons. Blake Snell is probably going to win the Cy Young. But it all fell apart for them in 1-run games, like you said. They're 7-23, and in extra innings, 0-12. 12 extra inning games without a win. That ties the most all-time with the expansion 1969 Expos. Of course, the Padres were an expansion team that year as well. So situational hitting, those small nuances of the game that can change your season. We've seen that with the Padres, but this is just one of those things that it's inexplicable. I mean, you're gifted the runner, of course, on second base, and it's gone against them every single time this year. Give them half of those games, Roflo, just a handful of those games,
Yeah.
and it's a completely different mathematical equation here in the final week. They need an absolute miracle. Their elimination numbers down to 1 going into today,
Yeah.
but it would be a totally different thing if they just took care of business in extra innings just a few times.
It's been one of the most head-scratching seasons in recent memory, and certainly Padre fans are frustrated, and certainly the organization is. Anthony Castrovince on MLB.com. The article is up right now. Here are the 10 most bonkers stats of 2023. Good stuff as always, Anthony. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Roflo. You too.